Greg Bovino, the former head of U.S. Border Patrol, will be back in the spotlight today, headlining a mass deportation rally in Fishers, Indiana. The invitation-only rally and private dinner is organized by the nonprofit group Save Heritage Indiana, which advocates against mass migration in the United States. Another group, called Fishers Resists, will hold a counter-protest and vigil later today. Now, this comes as the latest Quinnipiac poll shows Americans overwhelmingly disapprove of President Trump's handling of immigration, and as the administration continues to ramp up its deportation efforts. Documents obtained by the New York Times show ICE is now arresting foreign citizens with expired visas, including spouses of Americans, as they travel through airports. These individuals were not prioritized for deportation in the past unless they committed crimes. The Trump administration also implemented a new rule this week in which asylum seekers could be removed from the country without a hearing before a judge. Also this week, thousands of migrants from Haiti lost their temporary protected status, leaving many uncertain about what comes next. All of this comes as new analysis from MS Now shows an estimated 1.8 million immigrants have been stripped of their legal status since the start of Trump's second term. Joining us now, immigration attorney Alan Orr, who also served as a president for the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Alan, thank you very much for coming to the weekend. I don't even know where to begin. I just read off, what, three or four different things happening in immigration that alone should be breaking news, and breaking news because it goes against who we are as a country. The idea that asylum seekers, which is a legal thing to do, recognized internationally, that folks are being removed from this country without due process. I mean, just pick any one of these things and explain to the American people what can be done to stop this, curtail it, change it?
I want to start with the narrative a little bit, because I think the biggest problem is we think there's no alternative to what the Trump administration is doing. Right. There are. It started in 2013 when President Obama had a bipartisan bill that was not passed. Well, passed the Senate, didn't take up in the House. And then we can go to 2024 when the Biden administration had a bill that was going to address the border that was 12% less expensive than what we're doing right now. So there were alternatives to the enforcement that we're doing right now. Enforcement is not managing immigration. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is stopping fear across the board.
Mm-hmm. And the fear is part of the point. I mean, I was at the RNC, I imagine you guys were at some point as well, on the floor when they had those mass deportation signs. Yeah. And I have always, and when you would talk to people, it was both deportation and in their eyes, undocumented immigrants, but also immigrants in general, right? There was a hatred in some of the people that we talked to. I want to read something from Laura Baron Lopez, Nord Longi, and Alex Tabet. One Haitian immigrant, Maurice, told MS Now she would be going back to a, quote, war zone. Another said he came to the U.S. thinking he had nothing to fear because I'm not a criminal. The prospect of returning to Haiti is dire, he said. I know I would die if forced to return. Both asked only to be identified by their first names out of fear of being targeted. Again, under Trump, 1.8 million people have been delegalized. It's one thing to go around and deport people who haven't been a part of the process. Presidents have done that for years. President Obama did that as well. This is something completely different.
Right. So I'm the president of the Haitian Bridge Alliance, which is the largest nonprofit organization that addresses Haitians in this country. And so actually taking status away from 300,000 individuals does not do anything for immigration enforcement. What it does is increase the number of people who are undocumented, as well as separate 25,000 U.S. citizens of those TPS holders from their parents to either choose to become wards of the state or remain to certain death in Haiti. When our State Department says you cannot return, and if U.S. citizens are going there, they say, please give your DNA sample so we can identify you after you return. The narrative here is that there were 12 million people, that supposedly 25 million, that came in the country undocumented. Why are we not addressing that rather than legalizing people and taking away people's status across the board? It doesn't solve for any of the problems that we think. And so what are we solving for in this story? What is the narrative that we're pushing forward? And the narrative is that all immigrants are bad. Mm-hmm. And that's really the problem. No administration has done it before. Immigration in itself is not a partisan issue. This is about the American economy. Those people had jobs. They were serving different in healthcare and different industries. And now we're removing them and we're taking away the ability for those economies to survive. This is another small COVID in many communities such as Miami, Philadelphia, Chicago, places in California are going to have large numbers of people who now become unregularized. They won't be able to access any of the system, and now they're just sort of catching them. This speaks again to what's happening at the airports. You used to not have this issue at the airports for civil issues. Immigration is a civil issue. Now they made it a criminal issue, and you have things like they say, well, the visa expired. Well, that doesn't mean her status has expired. When we talk about different people, and the professor specifically at Johns Hopkins, having an expired visa does not mean that you do not have the right to remain in this country. It's a very difficult area to sort of maintain law, and now we have people who should be caring about the concern and safety of people traveling through airports, worried about someone's status and just massively arresting people. Jesus.
Alan, before we're out of time, I just want to dig into the polling around this, because I'm sure you spend more time in the numbers than we do figuring out the best way to communicate with the American people. 40% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the issue of immigration. 57% disapprove. There is a 4.1% margin of error. Why are these numbers the way they are? And when you've been looking at them since the start of the Trump administration to now, there's sort of been an ebb and flow. How do you explain that?
Because we're not telling the story. The children in immigrant detention centers are not getting the news. The families being separated aren't getting the news. The fact that our tourism is down because Canada and Mexico, our biggest tourist partners, are down. Schools and universities are losing money because the foreign students aren't coming in and paying full freight. We're missing the narrative because we're not seeing the true separation of families.
Eleanor, thank you. We will have to have you back because this story isn't going anywhere, and it's, I think, the more we talk about it, the better.